This is not just a show. This is a shift. A reset of how men think, how men heal, and how men lead. Before behavior, there is belief. Before legacy, there is mindset. And before change reaches generations, it must first reach the mind. This is bridging generations. Yeah. We were raised on survival, not reflection. Taught strength, but not emotional protection. Passed down rules, never passed down tools. So we repeated cycles, thinking pain was the fuel. Different decades, same mental wars. Men grinding hard, but still unsure. We inherited limits, disguised as truth, and called them manhood, handed down to the youth. But growth don't start with doing more. It starts with thinking different than before. What if failure was feedback, not shame? What if growth was learned, not fate or name? We don't stay fixed in who we've been. We expand the mind and life begins. Belief is the seed, mindset the soil. Growth is the reward of intentional toil. This is bridging generations, voices of men, where the mind gets renewed and healing begins. We don't pass down fear, we pass down plans. Blueprints for growth, hand to hand. From presence to purpose, from pain to design. We build better futures with a growth mindset. They told us that's just how men are, but we questioned the ceiling, raised the bar. We learned growth is a discipline, not a phase. A daily decision in how we're raised. Old men teaching lessons from scars. They survive, young men bringing vision, asking why different perspectives, same destination. Healing the man heals the generation. The growth mindset blueprint gave language to pain. Turned I can into I can learn again. No longer stuck in past definitions. We design men with intention. Growth is intentional. Mindset is foundational. Healing is learned. Legacy is built. Presence over pride, process over ego, blueprints, not excuses. This is how men grow. This is bridging generations, no fixed identity. We evolve, adapt, grow intentionally. We don't repeat cycles, we redesign systems. From the mind to the home, to the way that we lead them. The same motivation, it's transformation. Voices aligned through growth across generations. Growth is not accidental. Mindset is the real inheritance. And when men grow, families heal, communities rise, generations change.
Good evening and welcome to Bridging Generations, Voices of Men in a Changing World. I am Dr. Laxley.
Welcome back, you all. I am Dr. Juan Marcel, the other co-host of this wonderful show. Doc, it's been a lot going on. What's new? It's been a couple of weeks.
There's so much going on. It kept us off of here, but we've been working though, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So it is one thing to be on live. It's another thing to be present. So even when we're not here, we're present. And that is what it's all about, right? To be present wherever you are.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, we're back.
Yes, we are. Hello, everyone.
That's it. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight on Bridging Generations, Voices of Men. We promise that we're going to be having a powerful show tonight. We're going to talk about becoming the man you respect.
Ooh.
Becoming the man you respect. Self-respect is something, it's a big thing. And if you can't respect who you are, then man, don't you have some problems?
Yeah. Because the thing is, if you don't or can't respect what you just said, then I think it's a challenge to expect others to respect you when you don't respect yourself.
Wow. Self-respect. Yeah, powerful stuff there. But before we go there, Dr. Juan, you've been pretty busy yourself. I want to pop something on the screen. I want you to talk to us about that. What's going on here?
Wow, yes. So that is me. I this past weekend had the distinct privilege and honor to be it's almost it was ceremony to as a culmination of a 12-week long intensive for men. So it's almost like a boot camp. And so for 12 weeks, we the sign up, I think they said we were at 2,600 men. And it's so intense, right? And so strict that we went from 26 to a little over 1,000 men who finished. And so every week it's a particular time, you know, and for those who are on Zoom, let me tell you how particular they are. It starts at 9. You have 6 minutes to get in the room or to get on, and cameras always on. And at 6, 9:06 is closed. No excuses. You can miss 2 weeks. It's encouraged to make them all, but you can miss 2. But the biggest thing that they push, we go through lessons talking about a man and the way he is to function based on God's design and God's intent. And so everyone has the opportunity to speak in their breakout sessions. Matter of fact, it's actually required. You know, one thing they push is that men don't just sit in silence or just sit, they speak up. So they encourage every meeting, every class, every intensive that once we listen to the lesson, we discuss it, and you give your take on it. What was your takeaway? You know, so it was really good. But we touched on things: a man in his family, a man in his money, a man in his soul, a man in his purity, so things like that. A man in his health, a man in his church. So it just talks about, of course, biblical principles, but real ways to apply God's intention when it comes to how men are to function in their with themselves, in their families, communities, as well as marketplace and in society, in church.
12 weeks.
12
and,
weeks,
and only 1,000 finish.
only 1,000. We had close to 3,000 that started and signed up.
It's about commitment, right?
Yes.
Staying the course. And you did it. Congratulations, my brother.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I made it.
You sure did, man. And you made it. You made it. And you will always continue to make it because you have that resilience and you're that person, that man that understand that you will never know what success look like until you get to the end of the line, the other
Yes.
side. And you're always doing that. So congratulations again. Great stuff.
Thank you so much.
Some of the big things are happening. We're going to Kenya.
Yes.
How many days from now?
Yes. Not long away. May is here already.
Yeah, we're going to Kenya. Was it 13 days from now? 14 for some of the team members?
Yes.
Well, that's exciting.
We're going home.
Is this your first time going to Africa?
This will be my first time going to Africa. Yes, it is.
Wow. My third return to Africa. I say return back home because I'm going back home, right? So
yes.
Yeah, I don't want to say I'm not a visitor. I'm going back home. So, and this is your first time you're going home. You're going back home. Man,
yes.
what's it feel? What does it feel like? How does it feel?
Honestly, I'm elated. I'm excited. I'm always down for new experiences, new opportunities, and to meet new people and try new things. And so I'm most excited about that, and excited to continue this work that I'm just called to do, especially with this team of people, this group of people, is just to go and serve, and to get to do it on an international level. You know, to serve the people, God's people, globally. So I'm excited about it.
It's something to be excited about. We're going into Nairobi. We're spending 4 days in Nairobi. Then we're going to go to Masai Mara. We're going to the park there. And then from there, we're going up the Rift Valley into Viega County. We're spending 5-6 days there. From there, we'll do Kakamega County. We'll do Kisumu and some other things. We'll go, and then from there we'll go to Kitale, where we'll spend some more time and do more work. We'll be working with in schools, orphanages, churches. We're gonna do it all, man, in community,
Yes.
and we're gonna have some fun as well. We're gonna have some fun as well. So this is real exciting stuff here. My third visit to Africa, to Kenya. I'm excited, and I think this is going to be the best one.
Yeah. Well, let
Yeah.
me ask you. You asked me, how do you feel, Doc?
Other than putting in the work to plan the trip, which is quite a challenge, I'm excited. I'm really excited about this one. I'm excited. I see the possibilities, and I'm already seeing the outcome of our work.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm already seeing that. And I know that we're going to do some real good over there in this
Yeah.
trip, as we've done in the
Yeah.
past. But I think
Yeah.
this one is going to be the one that is going to really drive it home for us and set the standard for all future trips, all future visit to Kenya. There are other countries in Africa, and I know we will also need to tap into other countries as well. But for whatever reason or reasons, we're drawn to Kenya.
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll do our work there until our work is done, and then we'll
Yeah.
look elsewhere. So we're going to East Africa, man.
East
And
Africa. Yeah.
the possibility exists that we'll also take a quick 1-day trip over to Uganda.
Mm.
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so we'll do. Yeah, so it's exciting. It's exciting. But tonight, Dr. Juan, we are talking about becoming.
Yes.
Dr. Juan, this is not about pretending, not about performing, not about projecting an image. We are talking about becoming. Every man is becoming someone, whether it's intentional or unintentional. Every habit is shaping who they are. Every
Mhm.
decision is forming them. And every repeated action is constructing their identity. But Dr. One of the greatest questions a man must eventually confront is this: do I respect the man I am becoming? Not the image people applaud, not the reputation people assume, not the potential people talk about. We're talking about the man, the actual man, the one who is revealed through discipline, through consistency, through integrity, and through private behavior. And I know you know what I'm talking about when I say private behavior,
All
when
too
no
well.
one's
Yes.
watching, right? So, Dr. One, many men admire who they could be while repeatedly feeding who they should outgrow. They're stuck. So tonight we want to confront that question honestly.
Yeah.
And let me say that becoming is not accidental. It is built through structure, through accountability, through intentional decisions repeated consistently over time. And before I turn it over to you, I want to add that tonight is not about motivation. It is about construction. Dr. One?
Doc, that's powerful. What I love about it is that it's real, right? And I think because a lot of men say they want change, what they're really looking for is relief and not transformation. It's almost like an escape from reality rather than being transformed from the previous version of themselves. When asking about change, I believe they want clarity, but they want it without confrontation. They want growth without discomfort. But becoming doesn't work like that. You touched on something real key, Doc. You said becoming isn't accidental. And I really believe it takes intentionality. Becoming requires a man to slow down long enough to actually face himself. And to your point, not the version he presents, but oftentimes the version that he avoids. So this process of becoming it requires reflection, it requires honesty, responsibility. And I believe the truth is the man you respect isn't built off intention alone. He's built through alignment. So alignment between what you say you value and how you actually live. And that right there, like, that's the real conversation, alignment. And I think a lot of men don't have a motivational problem. I think the problem is misalignment. So like you said, tonight, this isn't about perfection. It's not about being perfect. We're not calling out men or even our own imperfections, but we are talking about becoming intentional. Because once a man becomes intentional, I honestly believe everything in his life starts to shift.
Absolutely. Powerful stuff there. Powerful stuff. You know, Dr. Juan, before a man can build anything meaningful, he must define what he's actually building.
Yeah.
So
Oh.
if respect is unclear, if you don't know what respect is, direction also is unclear. In fact, unstable. So let us begin here. Defining the man you respect. What does it actually mean for a man to become someone he respects?
Ooh, what does it mean to become a man you respect? I believe it starts internally. A lot of this conversation, and I can, connect with it starts internally. I believe respect is something you earn from people first, but it's something you establish within yourself. We talked about this briefly earlier. How can you expect others to respect the man that you don't respect? I think it starts when your private life matches your public words. It's integrity. It's doing what you said you were going to do, even when nobody is watching, even when it's inconvenient, even when it costs you something. A man you respect is consistent, not perfect, as we stated, but consistent. You can trust him because he follows through. And I think that's the place where a lot of men lose respect for themselves. It's not because of the lack of potential, but because they break their own word. We talked about that a couple of weeks ago, a man in his word. And I think they lose respect in themselves when they realize that they're struggling to keep their word. And so over time, I believe they stop trusting themselves. And when you don't trust yourself, you can't respect yourself. So becoming a man that you respect means rebuilding that trust. So I honestly believe that this is an internal process of one decision at a time, one habit at a time. You said this, one kept secret or one kept promise at a time. And because if you don't define the man you respect, you'll keep living below a standard that you never clearly set. So I think it starts there. That
You
man
know,
in the mirror.
you started out saying that talk about a man's private life and public life start sharing the same story, right? And
Mhm.
that's earlier you talk about misalignment.
Yeah. Yeah.
You talk about misalignment. So what you said is so powerful. And you know, Dr. One, many men, too many, confuse admiration with respect.
Hmm. Mhm.
And let me break that down because often people they admire your talent, your success, or your image. But respect is something different. It's deeper, right?
Yeah.
And again, respect comes from alignment. And we're talking about alignment when your private life and public life start telling the same story. That's the kind of
Ooh.
alignment we're talking about. You know, every, each time a man follows through on his word, and you touch on that, he strengthens his identity. And that
Mhm.
is where integrity comes into play, right? And every time he repeatedly breaks promises to himself, he weakens trust internally. And when you destroy the trust internally, there's no return.
Mhm.
Because often we believe that we're living here and our goal is to have others trust us. But what if you don't trust yourself? What if you've lost the trust for yourself, the internal trust? And that's one of the reasons I believe why respect is not built through intention. It is built through repeated behavior,
Yes.
doing the right things over and over and over. So, talk to me about that internal trust, trust for self.
Oh, I think it is major, especially in this process. As we talked about becoming, something that came to mind when you were just saying, and I thought about when we look in Scripture, especially in the New Testament, and we are admonished or are taught that the greatest commandment of all is to love thy neighbor as
Mhm,
yourself.
mhm,
Right. And so what came to mind was if I'm struggling to trust myself,
mhm,
which challenges my respect for self, then do I truly or really love myself? Because if I don't really love myself, then I'm not going to be successful or effective at loving my neighbor.
mhm,
And so, to your question, it makes me think about often what we see in life with just what goes on in different communities, even with racial barriers and different things, and the fighting and the riots and the race riots and different things. I think the lack of self trust, the lack of self respect, as you touched on, impacts my ability or the ability to respect or love someone else.
mhm. Yeah, I think I want to share in the chat, in the comments, some questions for anyone who will be who's watching us live or who will likely watch the broadcast. I'm gonna share them, then I'll read them off because I want this to be as interactive as possible and not
Yeah,
for us
yeah.
to talk. We want to paint a picture of what we're talking about. So this segment we call listener reflection. And the first one, Dr. One, is do you respect the man you're becoming? Second one is what standards are you repeatedly compromising? And the
Mm.
third one is are your habits supporting your values or contradicting them? And I want you to touch on the last one. Are your habits supporting your values or contradicting them?
Whew. Doc, the questions you are throwing out tonight. Oh my goodness. I think I, all of the questions, especially that one in particular, I feel like they pretty much touch on the same thing. Misalignment. I think it's a difficult thing to try to um or to expect respect and anything else outside of self if there's misalignment, right? So if what I'm saying isn't aligned with what I'm doing, that's obvious to others. That's obvious. That's something that folks externally can see. So if not only would I would lack trust in myself, I would lack or those around me would lack trust in me, and not even just me, but my word. And I think that's a major thing is when you miss or you are misaligned, right? And what you practice and what you say, then you lack integrity
Mhm,
because I don't think it's something that just shows up when you're in front of people. Now, I'm gonna be honest, and I know uh, people that are this way, especially men who have the what they call the gift of gab, right? And they know that when the lights go come on, the show is on, you know, so they know how to put on for crowds. But when you know them and talk to them personally, you see that what they said out there is so off from how they really live, or how they really, you know, how they really carry on behind the scenes, and it's off-putting. It really is. And so I understand that when others can see what's really going on behind the scene, you lose respect. That's not what I heard you say. I don't see you do.
Mm.
And so the concern for me to this question that you were talking about is, when we learn as men, when we become okay with living a life that contradicts what we say.
Mm.
That's dangerous to me.
That's dangerous stuff, right? Dangerous stuff. You know, I also posed the question, what standards are you repeatedly compromising? But once you define the standard, there's another reality that you must deal with.
Mhm.
That is, there's often a gap between who you are today and who you know you can become. But unfortunately, too many men quietly live inside that gap for years,
Yes.
who they are and who they can become. So, the next question that we should confront is the gap between who you are and who you could become. So, Dr. Juan, why do so many men live below the standard they know they are capable of? Why is that so?
Mm. You know, Doc, I honestly believe that most men already know who they could be. I really do. I think for all of us, at some point, at any time in life, we've thought about our potential, or either someone's come to us and say, "Hey, you have the potential too," and then that's triggered thoughts, you know. And so I don't think the issue is awareness. I think the issue becomes avoidance.
Mm.
And I think when we start to think about what it will take for us to become what we could be, I think we start to, or men start to, avoid discipline because it's uncomfortable. We avoid structure because it feels restrictive. I feel like I gotta live by, you know, rules or regulations, you know, so we avoid structure, and then we avoid pressure because it exposes, and it has the power to expose who we really are. So we avoid becoming, because failing at it would confirm what we already fear. You know, so I think a lot of it has to do with avoidance.
So, avoidance is a big thing. So, I think we both agree that it's not lack of intelligence or potential. It's more about discipline, isn't it?
Hmm. Yes.
Because, and you said it earlier, most men already know what they need to change. We all know what our bad habits are and how those habits are affecting us. And I would also suggest that we know what kind of conversations we should have and the ones that we shouldn't have as well.
Yeah.
Those are things that we know, right? But what we lack, too often, what we lack is execution. And without
Mm.
execution, nothing is going to change, right? Nothing is going to change. And earlier we said that tonight is not about motivation because that thing, motivation, tend to fade, right?
Yeah.
Tend to fade. So I have some more questions that I want to ask our audience. So I want to post them in the chat. And where in your life are you settling beneath your potential?
Mm.
What area of growth have you been avoiding? What version of yourself are you delaying through inconsistency? I think, Dr. One, that all of these questions, at some time, at some point in our lives, we have all been challenged with these.
Yes.
Been challenged with these. You know, and even to this day, as much as we're focused and we are doing better than most in terms of being intentional and taking action and acting upon our intentions. I still believe that there are times when we could do better, much better,
Yeah.
much. And do you want to comment on any of these questions?
No, I do. I especially the version of yourself that in a sense is being delayed. I think, and I go back to what I was saying earlier, it's the truth of the matter is it's very uncomfortable
Mm,
to become, right? For various reasons. But I think you touched on this when we first opened up. You said it's not accidental. So I think the truth that we have to understand is that becoming better starts with a decision. You have to decide to become better. Um, I think it's a conscious decision. Like, and then once you're able to do that, when you decide that better is possible, better is achievable, better is what you desire, and is what you deserve. I think that's when you build your life around that decision. So
mm.
I just wanted to share that self, that version of you, that version of us that's sitting there, the oftentimes we may be avoiding or just it's delayed. I think it has to do with just the discomfort that comes with making the decision to be better.
And acting on the decision,
Yeah, yeah,
not just speaking it. And you know what is interesting about making decisions? You make it today, but you must also make that decision tomorrow.
hmm,
It's not a decision that you make and you're at your destination. It's a journey, right? So choices you must make and make choices every single day. So it's an ongoing, continuous process. And that
yeah,
is why often you'll find that you're doing well today, but tomorrow you just fall off the wagon
yeah,
because you're
yeah.
not consistent. And you talk about consistency and the importance of consistency. So, and I think that brings us to discipline as identity. So, Dr. One, how does discipline shape identity? And we're not just talking about behavior here, but how does discipline shape identity?
How does discipline shape identity? I think when we're speaking about discipline, um, in reference to identity, I think it's something that you become.
Mhm.
I think it's a practice. I do believe that it's developed with intentionality. I think most of what we're talking about, if not all of it, it doesn't work if you're not intentional. Of course, we can talk about consistency and making a decision and, like you said, follow through. But if you're not intentional about it, it doesn't work because I think every action, to your point, you have to repeat, and the more repetition there is, I believe that's where your identity is shaped. So when we talk about a discipline, it's us deciding to practice these habits, these behaviors, these thoughts, and then as we're doing that, if we do it with repetition, we start seeing that identity, who we're becoming, forming. So I think it's intentionality and repetition.
Indeed, repetition, indeed. You know, they say repeated behavior eventually becomes self definition, it defines you, right? So, and if a man repeatedly quits, what will continue? He will,
He will quit.
he
Yeah,
will never finish.
yeah,
You know, if he repeatedly follow through, you start to see success. But you know, the important thing, if you repeatedly follow through, you stay with it just like you did, you're one of the thousand who finished, you start to trust yourself more.
yeah.
You start to build, self trust. So I just want to say that discipline is not just about productivity,
No, right.
it's about building self trust. Because your habits are teaching you who you are every single day. If you look at a person on their behavior, their habits, you can tell so much about that person, who that person is.
Yeah,
And guess who it's telling? It's telling you who you are.
Yeah.
It's telling you who you are. So you do not become disciplined through intention alone. You behave your way into discipline. And you know, Dr. One, small actions are very important. Small actions, such as keeping commitments, how you manage your time. And this one is very big, very important for me. How you control your reactions.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
You know, that emotional regulation is so important, right? So, again, confidence is not a hype thing. Confidence, you gain confidence through evidence, and evidence that you're doing things, that you're having some success. The more you are achieving, the more your confidence level grows. So that is why it is so important. We have Elizabeth Sitawa joining us from Kenya.
Hey, Elizabeth.
I know we'll be seeing her real soon.
Yes.
So I do have some more questions I want to drop in the chat. And we call this our listener segment. All right, so here we go, Dr. Juan. What habits are shaping your identity right now? Can you trust yourself to follow through consistently?
Oh,
What repeated behavior is defining the man you are becoming? You want to grab one of those?
what repeated behavior is defining the man you are becoming? I think that is speaks to what we were saying. I know personally, I want to share this. Going back, you said something. You said just being intentional and following through and repeated behaviors. You find that when you talked about if you repeatedly quit, you'll never finish anything, right? And so this past weekend, imagine real quickly, imagine being in a group of men, especially men of color. And we did have some men from other races, but majority was black and brown men, and we're sitting consecutively week after week, and at the same time in the same place, having various discussions and being open about it. To come to a place to be honored, and be pinned. And this one thing that my pastor said, and the men in leadership said, they said, "Men, if no one else has told you, one thing they said is, I'm proud of you." The thing that I think got, and when I tell you wasn't a dry eye in there, is when they said, look at your brother next to you on your left and right and tell him you finished it.
Wow.
He said, if you, and for those who've never finished anything they started, today is evidence that it's
Evidence.
achievable. And to hear that as a man, and to see men of all ages like cry because they felt accomplished,
Mm.
because they started something, and despite what it looked like when it was time to get on, before they got there, whatever it was, whatever life is looking like, family and all types of things, they followed through, like you said, and they repeated every week, time, and taking in the lessons and asking their questions, and showing up and speaking up, and they come to a place where they can say to themselves, I finished something. I think that when we talk about the identity that's being defined, the habits for me is making the decision that what I start,
Mhm.
I can finish. So that's, I wanted to share that, like, that's the man that I'm becoming, one
Mm.
who finishes what he starts.
You know, and I endorse that. I believe that is so important, and we both identify with that because too often we start things and then disappear from them when they become challenging.
Yes.
And I
Yes.
believe, and I'm learning, I am growing into this. I'm becoming the man that I am. And it's because I understand that it is the challenges that we face that is going to grow us and make us better. So I now look forward to being challenged. I
Mm,
look forward to doing things that are way above me
hmm.
and not within my comfort zone because I understand that is where growth actually take place. So Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about alignment with purpose. Let's talk a little bit about that. You know, how does purpose give direction to discipline?
Whew. I think this is the I think this is where the rubber meets the road, right? For men, this is when it gets real. I think a lot of men at this point will probably, burn out, or sometimes just what you say, hide or avoid,
Mhm.
um, because I think in that we see that you can be disciplined but not aligned.
Mhm.
And so and I know we use the word alignment a lot, but I want to make that like real for a moment. Like, and I'm a big on definitions, big on understanding, because I know we say it a lot. But alignment is when who you say you are, what you believe, and how you actually live all agree.
Mhm.
So it's almost like it's harmonious, right? And so with that understanding, um, I'll say it this way: when your values, your decisions, and your daily actions, Doc presses this, and he's been saying this whole conversation, that when your daily actions are moving in the same direction. Um, and for a man who is doing internal work, alignment looks like honesty with himself. For those who are asking, how do I get to this place? It looks like making decisions that reflect growth, even when it's uncomfortable. It looks like choosing discipline, and not just to stay busy, but with the goal of becoming.
Mhm.
And I feel like without that, you can be active, productive, even, and still feel empty or feel off. You're working hard, but you don't feel fulfilled, because discipline without purpose, like there's no understanding or meaning to what you're doing. So discipline without purpose just feels like pressure,
Like punishment. Like you
punishment, and not progress.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's exactly the case, Purpose gives that effort, that energy, that
Mhm.
time, discipline, meaning, right? Because when you understand, as a man, when you understand why you're making all these sacrifices, why you're showing up consistently to do things that you don't even like doing,
Yeah,
right? When you have a reason, we can call it purpose, right?
yeah,
That
yep.
is greater than you, then discipline becomes intentional because you understand why and what you're doing. And that is how your purpose can turn routine stuff, routine things into a mission. Just like us packing our bags and going to Kenya,
Yep.
dropping everything we're doing, right? It's costly. It's costly. It requires some discipline and be very intentional
Mm-hmm.
about and who you are and knowing who you are to want to make a sacrifice like that. It's a financial sacrifice, and you're taking time away from your family, your friends, and so forth. But we know why we're going. We know why we're going.
That's
That is,
good.
hey,
I
that's
said
a
that's good.
yeah, and that's a serious driver, right? So for me, Dr. One, purpose changes my perspective every single time about
Hmm.
life and about what I do. So as I wake up in the morning, I check myself. Because if you leave it up to you in a routine way, what you will do is nothing. You go back and rest and relax
Yeah, yeah,
because it's the easy way out, right? It's the easy way out. It's easy to say, I'm taking a break today. I did enough yesterday, so I'm going to take a break today. But what will you achieve when you lose that consistency?
yeah.
What will you achieve? So, again, the difference between action, movement, and construction, because we are men who are building things, and you said it earlier, men are active. Many men are active doing a lot of things, but they're not aligned. They're busy, but they're not intentional. And we believe and we understand and know that it is through our purpose that organize our energy and focus our energy into achieving what we achieve in life.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I want to say to anyone who's listening to us and watching us, make sure your purpose is very clear, because it's only when your purpose is clear that your discipline will sustain you to keep you going and doing all those difficult things that you're called to do. All right, so let's ask some more questions. I see you like these questions.
Yeah.
Let's pop them in there. One of these days we'll be able to hire someone to do the posting. One of these days we'll be able to hire
We'll have a whole crew.
a whole crew. All right, so listener reflection: is your effort connected to purpose or just routine?
Mm.
Are you building intentionally or merely staying busy? And what is your discipline actually producing? What is your discipline producing?
I like that. Is there that your efforts being aligned with your purpose?
Mhm.
Because and I want to, if I can, just add this quickly. We talk a lot about purpose. I love talks about purpose. And it matters understanding why you're doing something. And I think purpose answers the question, why does this matter? For a man should know his why, um, and if he knows his why, I think that helps increase his consistency. You talked about, challenges and things that you experience, but I think understanding the meaning behind why you need to be intentional. Why do I have to show up week after week? Why do I need to be consistent and punctual and do things with intent? Um, Once he's able to answer that question, once I'm able and we are able to answer that question, I think the consistency increases. And so I think the efforts that align a purpose, I think the more we do it, it brings us into alignment, because the more we sit, we act, we do, and we're reflecting, we're like, oh, we start to see like this is why this matters.
Mm. And that's how you get that shift in perspective as well. That's when everything starts to change for you. But Dr. Juan, even with purpose, no man becomes complete in isolation.
No.
No man. Growth requires some level of correction, but how many men are open to be corrected?
Mm. Whoop.
And that is and that is where we begin to talk about accountability.
Mhm.
Accountability. I think the first show we did, we talked about men mentoring men.
Yes.
That was a
Yes.
topic, right? So growth requires other men who are willing to sharpen us men in an honest way. We need to be able to look into each other's eyes and say honestly and tell the truth.
Yes.
So let's talk about accountability and brotherhood. Brotherhood. Why is accountability necessary for becoming the man you respect?
That's simple. I think accountability is necessary in to becoming the man that you respect, is because no man sees himself fully.
Mm,
We all have blind spots, and without accountability, those blind spots become patterns. I believe that accountability brings awareness. It brings correction, and this is where it gets real, because then every man says he wants accountability, but the real question is, for me, is can you handle correction? Because that's how I see accountability. Because correction doesn't just always feel good, but it's necessary for growth. And so you find that in community. I want to say and add this quickly to that point about being able to handle correction, because I think that is a vital question. It's a crucial question. Just today, a friend called. We were talking about something else, and they're a leader in an organization I partner with, and we had an exchange a couple of days ago. Not the two of us, but a mutual colleague. And so they called and they said, we were talking about one thing, and they said this today. They said, "Dr. Juan, can I share something with you?" Dr. Smith, I said, "Yeah, anything." And they were like, "Hey, the other day, when we were talking and she brought up the conversation, I think she was like, and she went on, she was like, you do your doctoral work, you're very intelligent, you're smart, you're a great leader, and everyone sees that. But I want you to be careful because of as established as you are, everybody's not always willing to acknowledge that or celebrate it." And then she brought up the third party, and they were like, they intentionally try to do things that trigger you. The other day, you came off as you were triggered. She said, and it wasn't so much in what I said. She was like, it was your tone was a bit dismissive to that person. And she said, so I was listening to you and what you said to him. She was like, her words were, she was like, "Woo, my friend." She was like, "I gotta tell him." She was like, "I don't think he." And so anyway, long short of it, I told her, "Thank you." I said, because in this moment, I am one who, like anyone, doesn't like to hear the truth, but I know the benefit of it. And I appreciate you, the boldness, but also the obedience to come to me and say, "Hey, I want you to be mindful of this, because if not, it can affect you negatively." And so I'm sharing it to say, so in that moment, I didn't get offended. I didn't shut down. I didn't excuse. I said, "You know what? I wasn't even aware that my disposition nor my tone was dismissive." And she's like, "You seem like you're just tired." And I was like, "I absolutely was tired." I said, "But there's no excuse to behave in that way. So I do want to apologize." And I said, "I thank you for calling it out. Like I need that. That's how we sharpen each other." So we moved on from that conversation, but I wanted to share that because in real time, because this happened today. So the question is, when we talk about accountability, because it brings awareness, but the question is, can you handle correction?
Wow. It's so important that each of us, we need someone in our life, someone around us who can say to us, to me, to Juan, to Dr. Juan, that behavior is beneath your standard.
Mm-hmm.
We need that, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
I wonder how many of us are blessed to have that person in their life. So what I'm saying is, if you don't have that person, find that person. Go ahead, Dr. Juan.
No, I was just going to just add to what you're saying, because I know that there are instances where I know there are individuals who have people like that in their corner, but they don't heed, or they're easily offended. So they often miss what their accountability partner, whomever that group is trying to relay to them.
Yeah. So as I'm posting, the question is, who has permission to correct honestly? That's a real question. Who has permission
Yeah, it is.
honestly? And do you have brotherhood or just social connection?
That's good.
And this is your word here. Who is sharpening the man you are becoming? We did a show, we talk about mentoring men. But this is way beyond that.
Absolutely.
This is way beyond that. This is about us taking accountability for self. Because we, as men, it is our responsibility to seek out accountability partners. No one is supposed to show up in my life and say, "Hey, I want to be your accountability partner." It is ultimately, it's my responsibility. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
It's my responsibility. But I'm wondering how many of us are actually doing that.
Yeah.
You know, I've been talking to a number of men about growth mindset, master
Hmm.
growth, and all those principles in the growth mindset blueprint. And, you know, I am always surprised when I ask, do you have a mentor? I ask men, do you have a mentor? And it's almost like, what is that? What does that mean?
Yeah.
Do you have an
Yeah.
accountability partner? And I believe that is the standard. And it's not a good standard, is it?
Yeah. I think that part about the sharpening, because I think what we the misconception is that sharpening, or having someone that sharpens, as the scripture says in Proverbs, iron sharpen iron. We think that this is about friendship, right? And you touched on that. This is beyond that. This
Mhm.
is someone who has the right, the given right, to tell you the truth, and not be concerned with your feelings or trying to spare your feelings, but they can look at you and tell you what they feel you need to hear, with intentions of making you better, right? And I think that is a process. And I think the question should be like you were asking, who around you is allowed to do that? Because again, it takes allowance, right?
Mhm.
Who is allowed to? Because I feel like that's a weight to carry. We talk about accountability partners, and that's something sometimes we use loosely, but I feel like that's a weight to carry. Because as an accountability partner, and we're building trust with each other, or even it could be a group. So then when I see something, I should say something.
Mhm.
So then I'm carrying this weight, like, okay, I see this, I know what their goals or what they're working to become. This could be a stumbling block or something that hinders that. I should say something, right?
Mhm.
And but if you're in a place where you don't allow that, then there's that tension that you have to carry. I think on both sides. Do I want to be told the truth or want to be corrected? But at the same time, it's the person that you've brought in or either asked or just been agreement to hold each other accountable. There's a tension, and I think in a good way, there's a tension that you have to carry as
Mhm.
that partner to say, hey, I love you, but hey, this is what I see.
Mhm. So, Dr. One, is it the message or the messenger that is important?
Mm, I think it's the message.
I think so too.
Absolutely the message.
And but we're clouded, right?
Yeah.
We're clouded. All right, let's keep it moving. We won't dwell on that, I think, because you realize that we only have 3 minutes, man.
Yeah, well, time is escaping
Yeah.
us.
So, what daily habits build a man of alignment, discipline, and respect?
Mm. Well, we do know just from what we've talked about today, real quickly, that it's not built in big moments. That this man, or becoming the man you respect, is definitely built in daily decisions. We talked about that. So that looks like your habits, your routine.
Mhm.
It's what you do, and you touched on this, Doc. It's what you do when nobody's watching.
Mhm.
That's when the man that you're becoming, that you can respect, is built. Is in the time when nobody is watching. Is when you reflect. Is when you act with intention. What your daily life is building, and I think, and I'll end with this, that what you do on a consistent basis through your routines,
Mhm.
that's your future self that you're building. I think
Mhm.
that we should keep that in mind, that what I'm doing today is building tomorrow, or myself, the version of myself tomorrow.
Mhm. Wow, powerful stuff there, my brother. Powerful stuff. That repeated daily decisions that you make. You talk about reflection, and how many of us are applying this thing about reflecting on our days and our conversations? You know, what I'm doing more and more of these days is after a conversation, I take some time to replay it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because if you are going to apply any level of interpretation or interpreting whatever you just listened to or participated in, you must take some time to reflect.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I agree.
Yeah. Again, we know that growth is rarely dramatic. It's just a quiet thing. It's slow. And often we will say we move from here to there, but it didn't just happen. It didn't just happen, right? So one thing about being respectable, it's not accidental. It's through your repeated decisions, through daily correction, daily discipline, and daily consistency. That is what that is how you are seen or perceived as being somewhat respectable. So let's do a few more questions. Let's move to the quick fire segment because we're
Quick fire.
on the quick fire. All right, and no thinking. Just let's shut it down. Discipline or comfort,
Discipline.
structure or freedom,
Structure.
accountability or independence,
Accountability.
Mhm. Growth or familiarity.
Growth. Growth.
Dr. Juan, if you continue living exactly the way you are right now, will you become a man that you respect or a man you recognize you could have been?
Oh, I would become the man that I could respect. I honestly, I believe that if I continue, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
And that is so important, right? That's because you're on the right path. You're doing what you're supposed to be doing. And tell me, what is this show, Bridging Generations, Voices of Men, doing for you personally?
Ooh, it is. And I said this just a few minutes ago about carrying this tension, and I want to add the positive connotation to that it is causing me to carry this tension, and what the tension for me is that decision to remain as is or grow. We talked about this in growth mindset, right? Is
Mhm.
believing that what's over there that hasn't happened yet is achievable, and then having to look at, okay, so to get there, it's going to cost this. You got to let this go. Are you willing to let this go to get there? So I'm carrying that tension from week after week, conversation after conversation, as we're having these discussions, and it's causing this in real time reflection, and then almost in a sense pushing me to take action, right? Because the next week we're talking about it, it's like I can't, well, I could, but my conviction level is kind of like, well, I don't want to show up and have a conversation about something that I'm avoiding, that I
Mhm.
haven't acted on, that, so it's causing me, we talked about this, you say this all the time, it's causing me to make sure that the words I speak align with how I'm acting, how I'm functioning, how I'm behaving. Right? You said you behave your way into becoming. You behave your way into discipline, is what you said. So that's the tension that I'm carrying with having this show, these conversations.
Hmm. And these conversations. All right, Dr. Juan, we're on the hour, actually past the hour. I just want to say that tonight, our conversation tonight was not about motivation or inspiration. It was about construction. The man you respect is not built in emotional moments. He's built in discipline, in structure, in accountability, in alignment. Every single decision we make every day is important. Every habit is important. Every repeated action is important. Dr. One, becoming is not something that happens someday. It is happening at this very moment. So the question is not who you want to become. The real question is, what are you doing daily to build him? I turn it over to you, Dr. Juan.
To our listeners, Doc said it's not about motivation. I want to add to that tonight is about confrontation, because once the mask come off, a man is left with the truth, right? And truth will show you exactly where you are. And I think sometimes we struggle with it, but it won't move you unless you decide to move. Doc, I want to add these two things that stood out to me tonight. Is respect is built through consistency and not intention. And you don't become disciplined. You prove it through what you choose to do consistently. And so it reminds me of something Aristotle once said. He said this, he said, "We are what we repeatedly do."
Mm-hmm.
Excellence then is not an act, but a habit. So then that means that the man you respect isn't a future idea. He's being built right now. Keep that in mind, that what you're doing right now is building that man right now through your daily decisions. We're reminded in James 1:22-25 to not just hear the word, but to do it. Because if you only hear it and don't apply it, it looks like it's like looking in a mirror, seeing who you are, and then walking away unchanged because you're forgetting what you saw. So in simple terms, you can recognize what needs to change and still stay the same. So here's the real question. If you keep living the way you're living right now, are you becoming the man you respect, or a man you're going to have to explain later? Here's your challenge. Choose one area of your life, just one, and starting tomorrow, align your actions with the man you say you want to be. Not perfectly, but consistently. Because becoming isn't a moment you arrive at, it's a pattern you live out. And to our listeners, we are grateful that you choose to tune in week after week. And for those listening to the playback, you are appreciated as well. No matter where you are across the globe, the sentiment is the same. Thank you for joining the discussion. Here at Bridging Generations, Voices of Men, we strive to provide insight and a safe space for men to drop the mask and just be. So don't forget to like, follow, share, and comment, because we do read it and we do respond. And as always, tune in next week, same time, same place, Thursdays at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on Bridging Generations, Voices of Men. We will see you next week. Peace.
This is not just a show. This is a shift. A reset of how men think, how men heal, and how men lead. Before behavior, there is belief. Before legacy, there is mindset. And before change reaches generations, it must first reach the mind. This is Bridging Generation. Yeah. We were raised on survival, not reflection. Taught strength, but not emotional protection. Passed down rules, never passed down tools. So we repeated cycles, thinking pain was the fuel. Different decades, same mental wars. Men grinding hard, but still